Hey everybody, and welcome back to Newegg TV. I'm Steve, and today I'm going to do an overview on this, the world's first mod tower from Cooler Master. This is the HAF Stacker 935. Let me introduce you to the newest addition to the high airflow series from Cooler Master, the HAF 925 and 915, making up the 935 Stacker. So this is it, guys. It's actually two different chassis. The top here you can see is actually slightly different, slightly smaller than the full size here, but does have polycarbonate window, and we'll get into a little bit more about that. But you can see here it's basically black steel and construction for the body, using mesh and polymer for the bezel here in the front. And because they are two different chassis that can be stacked, and in fact more than two if you wanted to buy multiple of the chassis and then just keep stacking them. Of course, there's probably a physical limit. If you guys want to learn more about this particular chassis and the one I'm covering in the overview, please click in the description below for the link to our Twitch interview with Cooler Master. All right, aside from that, I want to get into the actual dimensions. So you're looking at this chassis and you're thinking, how tall is this thing? Well, together with both of them stacked on top, you're looking at 235 millimeters by 719 by 578, or in inches, that's 9.25 by 28.8 by 22.75 inches. The main unit here, the 925, that's actually 502 millimeters in height, or 19.75 inches. But let's take a closer look at the 915R. Something I want to mention about this particular part of the chassis, the 915R also has a brother, the 915F. And the main difference between the two of them really is just having the option to have an I/O port here. So it'll also give you the power reset switch and a couple of USB ports. But aside from that, if you want to be able to use this for a system build, you still technically could do that. Just make it a little bit more difficult. And obviously, if you're a modder and you're into modding yourself, you'll probably find another way to attach one if you can't purchase one from Cooler Master now. I'm not sure when, but I'm sure at some point you'll be able to remove this and pop in their own I/O port there. Aside from that, the R is really more for hard drives, your storage basically, since you can put several different storage cages, hard drive cages into that, or water cooling, for instance. So let's go ahead and show you a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and take off the front bezel here carefully. There we go. That reveals an 80 millimeter fan here for intake, although some of that is being blocked on the inside, but you'll be able to line yourselves with a series of fans on each side. So really airflow is not really a big issue. 5¼ bay here at the very top. Then I'll just spin around this to the side and show you the side panel here. There's a couple of screws here and here, same on the other side, and that's so that you can remove this top cover and stack this on the bottom with something else on top of it. In other words, you could use this on the bottom of your build instead of having it on the very top, and that might be more convenient for you just to be able to run all the wiring down through the grommets. Let me go ahead and spin this around, show you the back too. Now, of course, you'll notice here the standard what you would normally see for the back of any chassis, and that's a place for you to screw in your PSU, your power supply, as well as a couple of expansion PCI brackets here. And then you also have the Motherboard Io. Now, if you didn't want to put a system in this particular chassis, you can always pop in the Io shield cover as well as the PSU plate. I'm calling it the plate, but basically it's just going to cover over the back too. So basically encapsulating that entire system. Also, they're providing for you an additional extremely long extension cable for the SATA power. And that's basically so that you could set up at least 3 drives with plenty of distance if you wanted it to go on top of the 925, giving you just tons of length here. So let's go ahead and open this up and I'll show you the inside. Now, something I want to say about the panel, actually it's something I like very much, is having these nuts to be able to be retained. So the screws themselves will not fall out. It's easier than having to screw them back in or grabbing a magnetic dish to keep them all together. It's a nice feature. Thank you, Cooler Master. So inside, you might not be able to get too good of a view here, but I can tilt it slightly. You know what? There's a much easier way for me to do this. Let me just show you the direct bottom of it. Here you can actually see the rail system that they're using to slide each one of the chassis in and interlock them together. There are screw holes here and here, same as the cover, to be able to anchor them back down again. You can see there's a few ports here so you can run cabling through it, although you're more likely to want to use these grommets instead. That's going to provide you plenty of space in order to run tubing in for your water cooling, as well as the power cables that you might need, or data cables. Just flip this back down again and show you the side. Here you can see your hard drive cage. Now you can get the hard drive cage from the 925, which is the bottom portion of this chassis, and attach them here as well as here. If you just wanted this to be all hard drives, you absolutely could do that. Trays themselves, go ahead and pull one out for you. I like these trays because they essentially snap out instead of being bent out. So that way you can just, in a toolless fashion, put your hard drive inside, slap it closed. Of course, you can also screw in the SSDs if you wanted to use those as well instead of the full-size drives. Go ahead and slide that back inside here. Of course, toolless for locking and removing the drive here, and unlocking and removing the drives for your optical drive if you wanted to use that, or anything else you wanted to slide in there. A quick look at the side panel once more. You can see that they do have a removable dust filter here. Very nice if you needed to be able to remove all of the dust that, of course, is going to get sucked into this. In terms of fan support, you're looking at a total of 3 120mm fans or 2 140s. That also breaks down in terms of radiators. You can have one 360mm radiator on this side, or one 280mm, and of course double that since you have 2 side panels. And then you know you're going to have tons of cooling potential with this particular chassis. Also, there's plenty of room in this chassis for a push-pull on both sides. So I've basically taken the lid off as well as both side panels now, just so I can get tons of light in there and show you guys the inside. Of course, nice HAF Stacker logo there. But to the left of that, we also have the motherboard mount. And of course, you can fit one mini ITX motherboard in the top, and that gives you the option to build a secondary system. All right, guys, now on to the HAF 925. This, of course, being the main section of the unit. It actually has 3 5 1/4 bays here, as well as your I/O at the top. Looking at a power switch, the 3.5mm microphone and headphone in and out, as well as 4 USB ports, and 2 of those are USB 3.0. Now, if I just spin this around really quickly, I can give you guys a glance of that polycarbonate window. You can see it's slightly tinted, a little bit darker, but I think that gives it a nice smoky look, and it's very clean. I'll spin that around to the back here and show you guys the rear panel. You're looking at 8 plus 1 in terms of the brackets, so that you can attach, you know, like a USB 3.0 ports that come with motherboards and whatnot. Aside from that, we do have a 140mm fan here. At the top, we have some grommets in case you wanted to run some of your water cooling outside the chassis, although it doesn't really make sense on this particular build because you have the grommets on the top that feed right into the 915, and you can just have massive radiators inside of that, so you don't even have to worry about doing anything wonky on the outside of the chassis. Keep it all internal. Of course, your panel here that you would normally expect for your motherboard. PSU, it's going to be bottom mounted for this particular chassis as opposed to the top for the 915. And once again, we do have a little area that you can lock the chassis, and those screws that are pre-mounted into the chassis side panels themselves. Nothing on the other side here, but I did want to mention again that this is the lid that you can remove on the rail system, slide it in and out. And at the very top, you can see also that they do have another filter so that you can remove this, of course, and wash all the dust out of it as that accumulates. Hey guys, so I've just removed the front panel just to expose what's underneath it. And you can see here they've got 2 different areas for 120mm front fans that you guys can attach to these. Currently they don't come with any, and you can see that the drives themselves, the drive cages, are actually in the way, but those are removable. I'll go ahead and spin that around to the side to show you. Of course, we have a total of 3 of these drive cages if you count the one in the 915, but you can remove these entirely, put all of your drives in the 915 as well, or just take them out in general if you wanted to have a really empty, cavernous looking chassis. But aside from that, more keyless locking latches so that you can secure your 5 1/4 bays. Then you, of course, drop down here to 3 1/2 inch bays. These also double as your SSD bays as well. So essentially have the same exact tray that we have in the other one as well. So I'm not going to show you too much more about that. But giving you tons of drives, a total of 9. And if you count the back of the motherboard tray here, giving you an additional SSD drive panel, so you get a total of 10 SSD drives if you just wanted to go absolutely nuts. You can do that. So aside from that, of course, we also have the mounting here for the motherboard, and that's going to include a mount that's capable of just compatible with, micro ATX as well as the ATX and extended ATX, so eATX as well. Then we see several different grommets here. That's going to be great for all of your wire management. Nice large one here down at the bottom for your power supply. Very small one here. That'll be great for hooking up your audio and probably your USB headers. Speaking of those, we do have block connectors for everything except for your LED, your power LED, and your power switch. But aside from that, and your reset switch should be somewhere in there too. I actually don't see it. Aside from that, we do have your USB 3.0 plug, as well as USB and HD audio, as well as the AC97, I believe. Yep, AC97. So down here at the bottom where the PSU would be mounted, as opposed to 915 where it's mounted on top, we do have a couple of rubber stoppers here, just giving a little bit of anti-vibration and protect your ears from the small amount of noise that you might actually hear from that. Set this back down again. In terms of clearance, you should have no problem fitting any video card in there that's reasonable, and even if you didn't, you could always remove these cages and give yourself additional space. But just to give you a number, you're looking at a maximum compatibility of 354 millimeters. That works out to about 13.9 inches. Also 360 millimeters or 14.17 inches, depending on which of the two chassis that you're currently working with. The bigger number is the bottom one here. Aside from that, we are looking at the addition of having a CPU cooler height of 180 millimeters or 7 inches. At the top though, in the 915, you get about 80 millimeters or 3.15 inches. Before I forget, it is of course a 2-year warranty as well, though you probably won't need it with Cooler Master. They'll take good care of you. I'm going to actually flip this down to the bottom here and show you a couple things I wanted to mention. Because the stacker system works that you could stack them in either order. You could put the 915 down here at the bottom, and then they have rubber grommets to allow you to pass through your cabling or your water cooling in whichever way you'd like to, as well as a nice little washable filter for dust as well. And these feet are removable the same way that they do for everything in the whole 935 series. They have the rail system, so you just unscrew here and essentially remove these and put the feet on another one if you would like to do that. Brief glance at the top here. I want to show you guys a couple more things. And I'll talk about fan mounting here. Now it says 2 120s, but I'd be willing to bet if you were willing to forego this like an optical drive in the very top of your 5 1/4 bay, that you could get away with 3 120s and probably 2 140s here would probably fit. But just so you know, it's not explicitly said that you can do that. I know for a fact you can get 2 120s because that's what it says about it. Aside from that, I just want to show you the back panel here. Just going to remove that. Alright guys, so here's a look at the back, and on the motherboard base plate here you can see they do give you at least that one last SSD mount, so you can mount that if you wanted to, and then you could do your entire SSD massive array of 9 drives and the 915 above it. But I also wanted to show you the clearance here. Tilt this forward. Looks like you get just about a little over 1/2 inch and maybe about 16 millimeters of clearance for all of your cable management. So just keep that in mind when you're doing a build with this particular chassis. Wow. Okay guys, that's going to wrap up this overview of the Cooler Master HAF Stacker 935. I also want to add a couple more things about it. We're actually going to use this particular chassis in a build that we're going to be doing very soon for Newegg Arcade, one of our sister channels, I guess you could call it, as well as doing another build in the near future for ours truly, Michael Chesna. So you guys can stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this overview, and if you liked what you saw today, don't forget to click the like button, and if you haven't already done so, click subscribe to any of our various YouTube channels, and we'll see you soon.